The silver ships came from the dark space between stars. They moved like hungry wolves, silent and deadly. The peaceful world of Valaris had never seen war before. Their crystal cities shined under 3 purple suns, but now smoke filled the air. Elder Thais pressed her long fingers against the communication panel. Her species had lived for thousands of years without fighting anyone. They made art and music. They studied the stars. They had no weapons because they never needed them. But the Nexar Empire did not care about peace. 12 worlds are gone, whispered Counselor Vex. His crystal skin was cracked with fear. Billions of our people are dead. The Nexar ships destroy everything. Thais looked at the star map. Red marks showed where Valari worlds used to be. Now they were empty space and floating rocks. The Nexar Empire moved like a disease across the galaxy. They killed every living thing they found. We have one chance, Thys said. Her voice was soft but strong. The old star charts show a world at the edge of space. The ancient ones marked it with warning signs. You mean the Death World? Vex's eyes went wide. The one marked as forbidden? Terra. Thys said the name like a prayer. The maps say Death, World, Extreme Caution. But they also show ships from there. Maybe they will help us. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Dong Min sat in his chair at Luna Command. The moon base was quiet. Earth looked peaceful from here, blue and green and beautiful. But Dong Min knew the truth. Earth was not peaceful. Earth was the most dangerous world in the known galaxy. The communication officer turned around. Her name was Lieutenant Park, and she looked worried. Sir, we are getting a strange signal from deep space. It's not from any human ship. Put it on the main screen, Dong Min said. The message was weak and broken. Static filled the air. Then a voice came through, speaking in a language no human had ever heard. But the computer was smart. It learned the words quickly and showed the meaning on the screen. Help us, the voice said. We are dying. The Nexar Empire kills everything. 12 worlds are gone. We will be dead soon. Please help us. The bridge was silent. Every human there knew what this meant. For 50 years, Earth had hidden from the rest of the galaxy. They pretended to be weak. They sent only small ships to explore space. They let other species think humans were just another peaceful race. But that was a lie. Captain Hyejin walked onto the bridge. She was young, but tough. Her ship, the UES Retribution, was docked at the station. It looked like a normal exploration ship from the outside, but Hyejin knew what it really was. Admiral, she said, I heard the signal. We have to help them. Colonel Tae-ho shook his head. He was older and careful. If we help them, the whole galaxy will know about us. They will know what Earth really is. Are we ready for that? Dong Min stood up and walked to the big window. Earth spun slowly below them. It looked so peaceful. But he remembered the history lessons. Earth was a death world. The weather tried to kill everything. The ground shook and split open. The water rose up and destroyed cities. Fire fell from the sky, and humans lived through all of it. Every other species in the galaxy came from safe worlds. When they found space travel, they were already soft and peaceful. But humans had to fight their own planet every day. They learned to survive anything. They learned to fight back when something tried to kill them. Sir, Lieutenant Park said, there's more to the message. They're sending pictures. The screen showed burning cities, families running and screaming, ships in the sky shooting down at helpless people. The Nexar Empire was not just conquering worlds, they were killing everyone on them. How long do the Valari have? Dong Min asked. The message says 12 hours, sir. Maybe less. Hyejin stepped forward. Admiral, we can't let them die. This is exactly why we built the fleet. What fleet? Colonel Tae-ho asked. He knew the answer, but he wanted to hear it said out loud. Dong Min turned around. His face was hard like stone. Protocol 7, wake up the sleeping giants. Every person on the bridge felt their heart beat faster. Protocol 7 was the biggest secret in human space. For decades, Earth had been building ships, not exploration ships, warships. They hid them in the dark places where no one looked, behind Jupiter's storms, in Saturn's rings, deep in the asteroid belt. "Sir?" Lieutenant Park's voice was shaking. "Are you sure? Once we activate Protocol 7, there's no going back. The whole galaxy will know." "The Nexar Empire is killing innocent people," Dongmin said. "They think no one will fight back. They're wrong." He walked to his command chair and put his hand on a red button. It was covered with warnings in every human language. Once he pressed it, everything would change. "Send the activation codes," he said. "All frequencies, all ships. Tell them the sleeping time is over." The signals went out faster than light. They reached the hidden bases scattered across the solar system. On Europa, under the ice, massive engines started to wake up. In the asteroid belt, ships that looked like rocks began to move. Behind Jupiter, where the radiation would kill any other species, human crews put on their armor and walked to their battle stations. The Volari message kept playing on repeat. "Help us. We are dying. The Nexar Empire kills everything." They asked. "For help," Dongmin said to his officers. "They're going to get it." Captain Hiejin smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator. "How long until the fleet is ready?" 6 hours, Tejo said. He was already calling up ship rosters on his computer. "The advanced scouts can leave in 2 hours. Then we better hurry," Dongmin said. "The Volari don't have much time left." On the screen, Earth kept spinning. It looked peaceful and quiet. But deep in space, things that had been sleeping for decades were opening their eyes. The Death World was waking up its children, and they were very, very angry. Commander Bora sat in the pilot seat of the Shadow of Baekdu. Her ship looked small and weak from the outside. Most alien species would think it was just a scout ship. They would be very wrong. The Shadow of Baekdu was built to hunt. It could hide in asteroid fields where other ships would be smashed to pieces. It could fly through solar storms that would cook any normal crew. And it was fast. Very fast. "All systems ready," said her pilot, Lieutenant Kim. He was young, but skilled. His hands moved over the controls like he was playing music. "Stealth systems online. We're invisible to their sensors." Bora nodded. Around her, 12 other ships just like hers were getting ready to leave. They would go first, ahead of the main fleet. They would find the enemy and learn how they fought. Then the big ships would come. But first, the big ships had to wake up. Deep in the asteroid belt, Engineer Jin Woo walked through the corridors of the UES Unstoppable. The ship was huge. It was 3 kilometers long and built like a mountain. The hull was made from metal that came from Earth's deepest mines. The engines used power from Earth's own core. "Reactor coming online," Jin Woo said into his radio. "Power at 20% and rising." The Unstoppable had been sleeping for 15 years. It was built in the deep ocean trenches where the pressure would crush any normal ship. Human engineers worked in diving suits that could go deeper than any alien species could survive. They built it strong because Earth had taught them that everything tried to kill you. "Jin Woo," came Captain Hyojin's voice over the radio. "How long until we can move?" 4 hours for full power, Jin Woo said. He looked at the massive engines that filled 3 whole decks. "But we could fight at 60% if we had to." "Good." "The Volari don't have long," Jin Woo smiled. "The Nexar Empire thought they were fighting weak exploration ships. They had no idea what was coming for them." On Luna Command, Admiral Dong Min watched the reports come in. All across the solar system, his hidden fleet was waking up. Ships that had been dark and quiet for years were turning on their lights. Crews that had been training in secret were putting on their battle armor. Dr. Su Jin walked up to his chair. She was the fleet's science officer, and she had been studying the alien signals. "Admiral, I've learned more about the Nexar Empire. They're not like us." "How so?" "They've never really fought a war," Su Jin said. She showed him pictures on her tablet. "They just show up at a world with big ships and tell everyone to surrender. Most species are so scared they give up right away." Dongmin looked at the pictures. The Nexar ships were big and looked scary. but they were built to frighten, not to fight. What happens to the species that surrender? The Nexar kill them. Anyway, Sujin said. Her voice was cold. They don't want slaves. They just want empty worlds. So they're not warriors. They're just bullies. Exactly. And bullies don't know what to do when someone fights back. On the bridge of the Retribution, Captain Hyojin was talking to her crew. They all looked calm, but she could see the excitement in their eyes. They had trained for this day their whole lives. Listen up, she said. The enemy thinks we're just another peaceful species. They think we'll be scared of their big ships. They're wrong. Her weapons officer, Ensign Lee, raised his hand. Captain, what if their technology is better than ours? It might be, Hyojin said. But technology isn't everything. We grew up on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to fight back. We learned to survive when everything went wrong. They didn't. She walked to the big screen that showed Earth below them. Every other species in the galaxy comes from safe worlds. When their planets shake, they run and hide. When storms come, they wait in their shelters. But what do humans do? We go outside and fix things, said Lieutenant Park with a grin. That's right. We don't just survive disasters. We learn from them. We get stronger. And that's what makes us dangerous. In the Deep Space Monitoring Station near Pluto, sensors were picking up something new. The officer on duty was Sergeant Yu, and she had been watching space for 10 years. She had never seen anything like this. Ma'am, she said to her commander, I'm reading massive energy signatures from all over. The system, it's like someone just turned on 100 suns. Her commander looked at the readings and smiled. That's not 100 suns, Sergeant, that's the fleet. On the screen, dots of light were appearing everywhere. Behind Jupiter, where the radiation was so bad it would kill any alien in minutes, huge ships were moving. In Saturn's rings, where the ice chunks moved fast enough to punch holes through normal hulls, human ships were sliding out of hiding. And in the asteroid belt, where rocks the size of mountains flew around at deadly speeds, the biggest ships of all were starting there. Engines, how many ships? Sergeant Yu asked. All of them, her commander said. Commander Bora got her final orders as the shadow of Bekdu prepared to leave. She would take her scout ships and jump to the edge of Valari space. Her job was simple, find the Nexar ships and see how they fought. But first, she wanted to see what they were really up against. Show me the tactical display, she said. The screen lit up with information about the Nexar Empire. They had been conquering worlds for 50 years. They had never lost a battle. They had ships that could destroy a planet from orbit. They had weapons that could kill millions of people in minutes. Scary, said Lieutenant Kim. Maybe, Bora said. But look at this. They always attack the same way. They show up with their big ships, make threats, and wait for surrender. They've never had to actually fight. So they don't know how to fight? They know how to destroy things from far away, Bora said. But Earth taught us something different. Earth taught us that sometimes you have to get close, you have to get dirty. You have to fight like your life depends on it. The shadow of Bekdu started moving toward the edge of the solar system. Behind her, hundreds of other ships were following. Some were small and fast like hers. Others were big and tough like the Unstoppable. All of them carried crews who had grown up on the most dangerous world in the galaxy. Jump coordinates set, Lieutenant Kim said. Ready to leave on your command. Bora looked at Earth one more time. It was small and blue and beautiful, but she knew what it really was. It was the world that made humans into what they were, and what they were was very good at surviving. Jump, she said. The shadow of Bekdu disappeared. Into hyperspace, the hunt was beginning. The first thing Commander Bora saw when she arrived at Valari space was fire. The planet below was burning. Whole cities were gone, turned into smoking holes in the ground. The beautiful crystal spires that the Valari had built over thousands of years were broken and melting. How many Nexar ships? She asked. Scanning now, Lieutenant Kim said. His fingers moved fast over his controls. I count 47 ships in orbit. They're big, Captain. Much bigger than us. Bora looked at the tactical display. The Nexar ships looked like giant metal spears. They were 5 times longer than her scout ship and covered in weapons. But something was wrong with the way they moved. "They're staying in high orbit," she said. "Why aren't they coming down to finish the job?" "Maybe they don't need to," Kim said. "Look at those energy readings. They're charging some kind of big weapon." On the planet's surface, Elder Theiss crouched in an underground shelter with the last members of her council. The walls shook as another energy blast hit somewhere above them. She could hear children crying in the darkness. "The signal went out," she said to Counselor Vex. "Do you think anyone heard it?" "Even if they did," Vex said sadly, "what can they do? The Nexar have 40 ships. Any rescue force would be destroyed." Above them, Admiral Krex of the Nexar Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was tall and thin with gray skin and cold eyes. His species had been conquering worlds for centuries. It was always the same. Show up with big ships, threaten to destroy everything, wait for surrender. "How much longer?" he asked his weapons officer. "The planetary destruction beam will be ready in 2 hours, Admiral. Then we can crack this world open like an egg." Krex nodded. The Volari had refused to surrender, which was annoying. Most species gave up as soon as they saw the Nexar fleet, but it didn't matter. Soon there would be nothing left of this world except floating rocks. "Sir," his sensor officer said suddenly, "I'm reading something strange. There are ships out there, but they're very small. Should we destroy them?" Krex looked at his screen. Tiny dots moved between the asteroids near the planet. Probably escape pods or small transports trying to run away. "Ignore them. Focus on charging the main weapon." But the small ships weren't running away. Commander Bo-Ra moved the shadow of Bekdu closer to the Nexar formation. She stayed hidden behind chunks of space rock using her ship's advanced stealth systems. "They're not even looking for us," Kim said with surprise. "Their sensors are all pointed at the planet." "They don't expect anyone to fight back," Bo-Ra said. "Send a message to Admiral Dongmin. Tell him the enemy has 47 ships in standard formation. They're preparing to destroy the planet in 2 hours. What about us? Do we attack?" Bo-Ra smiled. It was not a nice smile. "No, we wait. And when our big friends arrive, we show these bullies what real fighting looks like." Back in the Sol system, Admiral Dongmin stood on the bridge of the Terra's Wrath. His flagship was the biggest ship humans had ever built. It was 4 kilometers long and covered in armor made from compressed asteroid metal. It had weapons that could punch holes through moons and engines that could push it to speeds that would tear apart weaker ships. "Fleet status report," he said. "All ships ready for jump." Captain Haijin's voice came over the radio from the Retribution. "The Unstoppable reports full power. The assault groups are locked and loaded." Dongmin looked at the tactical display. His fleet filled the screen. There were 300 ships, all of them built for war. Some were fast attack ships like Haijin's. Others were massive battleships like the Unstoppable. And some were special ships designed for jobs that only humans would think of. "Dr. Sujin," he said, "what can you tell me about Nexar psychology?" Sujin looked up from her research station. "They're bullies, Admiral. They've never faced real resistance. When things get hard, they don't adapt. They just use bigger weapons. And when bigger weapons don't work, they panic." Dongmin nodded. "All ships prepare to jump. We're going to introduce the Nexar Empire to the concept of fear." Captain Teho was on the bridge of his assault ship, the Soul's Hammer. His job was special. While the big ships fought in space, he would take his men down to the planet to help any survivors. "Sir," his communications officer said, "I'm getting weak signals from the planet's surface. There are still Volari alive down there." "How many?" "Hard to tell. Maybe a few thousand scattered in underground shelters." Teho thought about that. A few thousand survivors out of billions. The Nexar were very good at killing, but humans were very good at saving people when everyone else had given up. "Get me a secure channel to the survivors," he said. "It's time to introduce ourselves." On the planet below, Elder Theiss nearly jumped when her emergency radio suddenly came to life. The voice that spoke was using her own language, but the accent, was strange. Valari survivors, this is Captain Tejo of the human fleet. We received your distress call. Help is coming. Human? Thais had never heard that word before. What is human? We're the ones who answered your call for help. Stay in your shelters. We'll be there soon. But the Nexar ships won't be a problem much longer. In high orbit, Admiral Krex was getting impatient. How much longer for the planet killer? 1 hour, Admiral. The beam will... The sensor officer suddenly shouted. Sir, ships are jumping in. Lots of ships. The space around Valaris filled with light as 300 human ships came out of hyperspace. They appeared all at once, in perfect formation, like they had practiced this 1,000 times. Krex stared at his screen. The new ships were smaller than his, but there were so many of them, and they were moving in ways that made no sense. Some were diving through the debris field around the planet. Others were using the planet's gravity to slingshot around and attack from unexpected angles. What species are they? He demanded. Unknown, sir. I've never seen ship designs like these. It doesn't matter. We have bigger ships and more weapons. Destroy them all. But as the Nexar ships turned to fight, they discovered something that no alien species had ever learned the hard way. Humans didn't fight like other races. Other species fought to win cleanly and with minimal risk. Humans fought to survive, which meant they would do anything to win. The human ships scattered like a school of fish, then regrouped to attack from 6 directions at once. They flew through fields of space debris that should have torn them apart. They used the radiation from the planet's sun as cover, flying through energy levels that would kill any other species. They're insane, Krex's weapons officer shouted, as a human ship flew directly through his firing arc, shooting back the whole time. No. Admiral Dongmin's voice came over the radio. All Nexar ships could hear it. We're from Earth, and Earth taught us that when someone tries to kill innocent people, you stop them, permanently. The Terra's Wrath fired its main guns. The Yosei energy beams were not fancy or high-tech. They were just very, very powerful. They punched through Nexar shields like they were made of paper. Admiral Krex watched in horror as his formation fell apart. His ships were bigger and more advanced, but the humans fought like nothing he had ever seen. They took terrible risks. They flew into danger that would make any sane pilot run away. And they kept coming, no matter how much damage they took. All ships retreat, he ordered. Fall back to the outer system. But Commander Bora and her scout ships were waiting. They had been quiet and hidden, but now they struck. The shadow of Bekdu and her sister ships attacked the Nexar rear guard, cutting off their escape. This is Commander Bora to all Nexar. Vessels, she said over the radio. You wanted to destroy a peaceful world. Now you get to see what happens when you threaten someone under human protection. The battle for Valaris had begun, and the Nexar Empire was about to learn what it meant to fight a species that had earned its place in the stars. Lieutenant Jaewon pulled his fighter into a spiral that would have torn apart any normal ship. Around him, chunks of destroyed Nexar vessels spun through space like deadly snow. He used them as cover, diving between pieces of metal the size of buildings. Fox leader to all fighters, he said into his radio. The Nexar are trying to regroup near the third moon. Let's not give them the chance. His squadron followed him through the debris field. The human fighters were small and fast, built like the atmospheric fighters that flew through Earth's hurricanes. They could turn and twist in ways that seemed impossible. A Nexar interceptor tried to follow them into the debris. It was a sleek, clean ship designed for fighting in empty space. The pilot was skilled, but he had never learned to fly through a field of spinning wreckage. A chunk of metal caught his wing and sent him tumbling into an asteroid. That's the difference between us and them, Jaewon said to his wingman. They learned to fly in safe, empty space. We learned to fly through storms that could kill us. On the planet's surface, Captain Tejo crawled through the ruins of what used to be a beautiful crystal city. His armor was scratched and dented from falling debris, but he kept moving. Behind him, a squad of human Marines followed, carrying medical supplies and emergency food. Sir, Sergeant Myung said, I'm reading life signs 200 meters ahead. Looks like a large group in an underground shelter. Tejo nodded. The Valari had built their shelters deep, but the Nexar bombardment had collapsed most of the Yao entrances. His people had to dig their way in, working with tools and bare hands while the battle raged overhead. They found Elder Thys and 43 other survivors, huddled in a room that was slowly filling with smoke. The Volari looked like living crystals, beautiful and fragile. They stared at the humans in wonder and fear. "You came," Thys whispered. "You actually came." "We got your message," Tejo said. He pulled off his helmet so she could see his face. "We don't leave distress calls unanswered." The human medics immediately went to work on the injured Volari. They had studied alien biology during the trip, learning how to help species they had never seen before. One of the medics, Corporal Yang, gently bandaged a Volari child's cracked arm. "Your people," Thys said to Tejo. "They are warriors?" "Some of us, but mostly we're just people who don't like bullies." Above them, the space battle was becoming a lesson in human military thinking. The Nexar fought like they always did, with big ships in neat formations, firing massive weapons from safe distances. It had worked against every other species they had conquered. But humans had learned warfare on a world that was actively trying to kill them. Every storm, earthquake, and volcanic eruption had been a teacher. Earth had shown them that the enemy was never where you expected, and safety was an illusion. Captain Hyojin brought the retribution in close to a Nexar battleship, so close that their shields were almost touching. The alien captain tried to back away, but human ships were faster and more maneuverable. "Target their weapons," Hyojin ordered. "Take them apart piece by piece." The retribution's guns fired in rapid bursts, not trying to destroy the enemy ship. All at once, but systematically removing its ability to fight. It was a human approach to combat, methodical, relentless, and terrifyingly effective. Admiral Krex watched his fleet falling apart and tried to understand what was happening. His ships were bigger and had more firepower, but they couldn't hit targets that moved like the human ships did. The humans flew through asteroid fields, used planets for cover, and attacked from angles that should have been impossible. "Sir," his tactical officer said, "they're not fighting like any species we've encountered. They take risks that should be suicidal, but somehow they survive." "What do we know about these humans?" "Nothing, sir. They came from outside our explored territory, but their ships are designed for close combat in dangerous environments." Krex felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. His empire had conquered 47 species, and every single one had surrendered when faced with superior firepower. But these humans seemed to get more dangerous the more desperate the situation became. "Send a message to their leader," he ordered. "Offer them a treaty. They can have this world if they leave us alone." Dr. Sujin was monitoring all enemy communications from her station on the Terra's Wrath. When she heard the offer, she laughed out loud. "Admiral," she said to Dongmin, "they want to negotiate. They're offering to let us have Valeris if we stop attacking them." "What do they think this is?" Dongmin asked. "A business deal? They don't understand us at all. Every other species they fought was willing to trade lives for territory. They think we're the same." Dongmin opened a channel to the Nexar flagship. "Admiral Krex, this is Admiral Dongmin of the Human Defense Force. You offered us Valeris in exchange for letting you go." "Yes." Krex's voice came back, sounding hopeful. "Counter-offer," Dongmin said. "Surrender now, and we'll let some of you live." The channel went silent for a long moment. Then Krex spoke again, and his voice was full of confusion and fear. "What do you want from us? We want you to stop killing innocent people forever. But that's impossible. Our empire needs new worlds. We have to expand. Then you'll have to find empty worlds, or learn to share. But you're done with genocide." Krex realized that these humans were not like any species he had conquered. They weren't fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting because they thought what he was doing was wrong, and they seemed perfectly willing to die for that belief. "You're insane," he said. "No," Dongmin replied. "We're from a death world. We learned a long time ago that some things are worth fighting for." The battle continued, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Human ships swarmed through the Nexar formation like predators. They had taken losses, but every time a human ship was destroyed, the others seemed to fight harder. Sergeant Mi-young led a boarding party onto a damaged Nexar cruiser. The ship's corridors were clean and sterile, designed for a species that had never known real hardship. Her Marines moved through them like they were walking through their own home. The Nexar crew tried to stop them with energy weapons and security robots, but humans had learned to fight in Earth's jungles, deserts, and frozen wastelands. A sterile spaceship corridor was easy by comparison. "Secure the bridge," Mi-young ordered. "Take prisoners if they surrender. If they don't, remember what they did to the Volari." On the planet below, more Volari survivors were being found and rescued. Each group told the same story. The Nexar had demanded surrender, and when the Volari refused, they had started systematically destroying cities full of civilians. "Why?" one Volari elder asked Taeho. "Why didn't your people just ignore our signal? This isn't your fight." Taeho looked up at the sky, where human ships were still fighting and dying to protect a species they had never met. "It became our fight the moment you asked for help," he said. "That's what humans do. We answer the call." Admiral Krex made one last desperate attempt to save his fleet. He ordered all his remaining ships to target the human flagship, hoping that killing their leader would break their will to fight. 23 Nexar ships focused their fire on the Terra's Wrath. Energy beams and missiles filled space around the massive human battleship. For a moment, it disappeared in a cloud of explosions and fire. But when the smoke cleared, the Terra's Wrath was still there. Its armor was damaged and several sections were on fire, but its guns were still working. "Is that the best you can do?" Admiral Dongmin's voice came over the radio, calm and steady. The human counterattack was swift and merciless. Ships that had seemed damaged suddenly revealed hidden weapons. The Terra's Wrath's main guns fired with power that made space itself seem to bend. In less than 10 minutes, 12 Nexar ships were destroyed. Admiral Krex stared at his tactical display in horror. His mighty fleet was broken, scattered, defeated by an enemy he didn't understand. And the worst part was that he was beginning to realize this was just the beginning. The humans weren't just defending one world. They were making a statement to the entire galaxy. The age of easy conquest was over. 3 months after the Battle of Velaris, Admiral Dongmin stood on the bridge of the Terra's Wrath as it approached the Nexar home system. Behind him, the human fleet had grown even larger. Ships had come from every corner of human space, and they all carried the same message: no more genocide. "Sensor report," he said to Lieutenant Park. "Massive defensive grid around the planet, sir. They've pulled back every ship they had scattered across their empire. I count over 200 vessels." Dongmin nodded. The Nexar had learned from their defeat at Velaris. They were no longer spread out conquering helpless worlds. They had brought everything home to make their final stand. "They think numbers will save them," Captain Hyojin said over the communication channel. "They still don't understand." Dr. Sujin looked up from her research station. She had been studying captured Nexar data for months, learning how their empire worked. "Admiral, I don't think they can surrender even if they want to. Their whole civilization is built on the idea that they're superior to everyone else. If they admit they can be defeated, their entire society might collapse. Then they've chosen their path," Dongmin said quietly. On the planet below, Emperor Vak of the Nexar Empire paced in his throne room. He was old and had ruled for over a century, watching his people conquer world after world. Never once had they faced real resistance. Now these impossible humans had shattered 3 of his fleets and were demanding he stop all expansion. "My Emperor," his military advisor said, "perhaps we should consider negotiations. These humans seem willing to—" "No!" Vak's voice echoed through the crystal chamber. "We are the Nexar. We do not bow to inferior species." But even as he spoke, Vak could see the fear in his advisor's eyes. The humans had done something no enemy had ever done before. They had followed the Nexar home. Every other species had been happy to defend their own worlds, but humans seemed to think that stopping genocide meant stopping it everywhere, forever. In space above the planet, The two fleets faced each other. The Nexar formation was beautiful in its own way, with huge ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Each vessel was a work of art as much as a weapon, created by a species that valued elegance and superiority. The human fleet looked different. Their ships were scarred and dented from countless battles. They were built for function, not beauty. They moved like a pack of wolves ready to attack from any direction. Commander Bora brought her scout ships in first, testing the enemy defenses. The shadow of Bekdu danced through the Nexar sensor nets, mapping their positions and weaknesses. They've learned from last time, she reported. Better coordination, overlapping fields of fire. They're not going to be as easy to break apart. Good, Admiral Dong Min said. I was worried this would be boring. Captain Tae-ho was leading the ground assault teams, ready to land on the Nexar, homeworld itself if necessary. His ships were loaded with Marines who had trained for months in urban combat. They knew this might be the bloodiest battle in human history. Sir, one of his officers said, intelligence reports that the Nexar civilians are being evacuated to underground bunkers. They expect us to bombard the planet. We're not the Nexar, Tae-ho said firmly. We don't kill civilians, but we will. Remove their government if that's what it takes to stop the killing. The battle began at dawn Nexar time. The alien fleet moved forward in their perfect formation, firing coordinated volleys from their massive weapons. It was beautiful and terrible, like a dance of death performed by artists. But the humans didn't dance. They fought like Earth had, taught them to fight, dirty, desperate, and with complete commitment. Lieutenant Jae-won led his fighters through the Nexar formation, using their own ships as cover. When his fighter was damaged, he rammed it into a Nexar weapon station rather than retreat. Engineer Jin Woo pushed the Unstoppable's engines far beyond their safe limits, making the massive battleship move faster than physics said it should. When the Nexar tried to surround it, the ship fought like a cornered animal, its guns firing in all directions. Sergeant Mi-young and her Marines boarded Nexar ships again and again, turning their clean corridors into battlefields. The Nexar fought hard, but they had never learned to fight inside their own ships. Humans had learned to fight everywhere. As the battle raged, something strange began to happen on the Nexar homeworld. Reports came in of Nexar civilians watching the fight on their screens, seeing their mighty fleet being torn apart by an enemy they had been told was primitive and weak. Some began to question their leaders. If the humans were truly inferior, how were they winning? If the Nexar were truly superior, why were they losing? Emperor Vak felt his empire cracking like glass. Not just his military, but his entire civilization. The idea that Nexar were the master species was falling apart as humans proved them wrong with every victory. Sir, his communications officer, said nervously, we're getting reports of uprisings on 17 worlds. Species we conquered years ago are rebelling. They say if humans can defeat us, maybe they can too. Impossible, Vak whispered, but he could see the truth on his screens. The Nexar Empire was collapsing not just from outside, but from within. Admiral Dong Min received the same reports on the Terra's Wrath. All across the galaxy, species that had been conquered by the Nexar were rising up. Some were asking for human help. Others were fighting on their own. This is bigger than we thought, Dr. Su-jin said. We're not just fighting one empire. We're starting a galactic revolution. The final phase of the battle came when the last Nexar ships were trapped around their homeworld. Admiral Krex, who had survived the defeat at Valaris, made one last transmission. Humans, he said, and his voice was full of exhaustion. What do you want from us? We told you before, Admiral Dongmin replied. Stop the killing. All of it. And if we refuse, then we'll stop you ourselves. There was a long silence. Then, one by one, Nexar ships began powering down their weapons. Not all of them. Some fought to the end, preferring destruction to defeat, but enough surrendered to save what was left of their people. Emperor Vak was found dead in his throne room, having chosen suicide rather than face the end of his empire. But not all Nexar leaders made the same choice. Some were willing to try a different path. 6 months later, Admiral Dong Min stood in the assembly hall of what used to be the Nexar capital. Representatives from dozens of species were there, working together to build something that had never existed before. A galactic government based on cooperation instead of conquest. Elder Thais of the Valari approached him during a break in the meetings. Her crystal skin still bore scars from the bombardment of her world, but her people were rebuilding. "Admiral," she said, "I must ask you something that troubles me. Your people have the power to rule the galaxy now. Your ships are the strongest. Your weapons are the most advanced. Why do you not simply take control?" Dongmin looked out the window at Earth ships patrolling the system. They looked small next to the massive space stations being built by the new Galactic Alliance. But everyone knew they were the reason this peace existed. "Because ruling the galaxy isn't why we came out here," he said. "We came because you asked for help. The job is done. But surely you will stay. There may be other threats." "Some of us will stay," Dongmin said. "Captain Heejin is setting up patrol bases along the outer rim. Commander Bo-Ra is training new scout fleets from volunteer species. Captain Taiho is helping refugees resettle on worlds that are safe." "And you?" "I'm going home," Dongmin said simply. "Earth is still a dangerous place. It still needs people to watch over it. And honestly, I'm tired of war." But even as he spoke, both he and Thais knew the truth. Humans might go home, but they would be watching. The galaxy's monitoring stations were full of human observers. The deep space patrol routes were staffed with human ships. Earth had revealed itself to save the Valari, and in doing so, had become the galaxy's guardian. It was a job they had never wanted, but one they would not abandon. 3 years later, on a monitoring station at the edge of known space, Sergeant Yu was working her usual shift when she detected something that made her blood run cold. "Commander," she called to her superior, "I'm reading massive energy signatures from outside the galaxy. Unknown ship configurations. They're heading for the outer colonies." Her commander looked at the readings and reached for the red alert button. "Send a message to Earth. Tell Admiral Dong Min that someone just answered our call for help, and send it to all human ships. The sleeping giants need to wake up again." In the distance, new signals were coming from the dark between galaxies. Species fleeing something even worse than the Nexar Empire had been. And somewhere in those signals was a familiar phrase: "Help us. We are dying." The job, it seemed, was never really done. But humans had learned long ago that some jobs were worth doing forever. Earth had taught them that, and Earth's children would answer the call, no matter how far it came from, no matter how dangerous, the enemy. Because that's what humans did. They answered the call.